we'd like to extend a warm welcome for being with us today. All right, wow. Can I know who is attending nuskin event for their very first time? Yes, well, let's give them a round of applause. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Yen Mei, and I'll be your host for today's event. Okay, so without further ado, kindly allow me to share a little about our company background. Okay. Right, I'll first like to start off with our company mission.
Yes.
nuskin's mission is to be a force for good throughout the world by empowering people to improve lives through rewarding business opportunities, innovative products, and an uplifting and enriching culture. Now, I'm sure you would have caught, the transformation that happened. So, instead of keeping talking about the transformation that our sales leaders have, I figured out that it would be better for me to show you how they've actually been transformed. As you can see here from this photo here, you can see a lot of our distributors after, trying our products, they found and loved it, and they have actually transformed to be more youthful and more, I would say, more regain their health, I would have to say. Okay, basically they've transformed into a better version of themselves. All right. Now, nuskin is not just about transforming our sales leaders. We also have a strong sense of corporate social responsibility, and through this we have our Force for Good initiatives. Okay, so the first initiative is through our Nourish the Children program. Okay, so what we do in this program here, we, the sales leaders, our employees themselves, okay, they will contribute vital meals to malnourished children around the world. Since 2002, we have actually donated more than 580 million meals throughout the world. Okay, so let's give them a big hand. So, when you make your donations as a leader, do you wonder where they go to? Well, we go to places as far-flung as Malawi, Somalia, and even China. Okay, so the second initiative, Force for Good initiatives, I have to say, is our Southeast Asia Children's Heart Fund. Okay, locally, we partner with Institute Jantung Negara, okay, and to actually fund the operations of children suffering from congenital heart disease. As of up to date, we have saved 254 lives over the years in Malaysia. And yeah, thank you very much. Alright. So in Southeast Asia itself, we have saved more than 10,000 children's lives. Yeah, and I would have to say that all this can be made possible through the generosity of our distributors and sales leaders who have donated 1% of their commission every single month. Okay, so please give them a round of applause. Thank you. All right. So, nuskin is known to be one of the world's leading anti-aging company. When nuskin started off in 1984, we only have 12 key products. Okay, so over the years, we have continued to strive, create products, innovate, and to create more products for our sales leaders. So in the year of 2008, something new and exciting was born. So what was actually born? ageLOC was introduced to our arsenal of products. And up until today, we still keep on innovating our products. And the one of the latest to join our family of ageLOC is the LumiSpa. Everyone heard of LumiSpa, right? Yes. Okay, fantastic. Now, for those, very important for us since we are a Muslim country, I would have to say that, all our Pharmanex supplement products are certified halal by Avanta. So for those Muslim brethren, you can rest assured that, they can be consumed according to the Islam, rights. Okay, and not to mention, we are very proud and honored that our products has been, awarded numerous products over the years, They have been voted to be among the best, by consumers. Okay, so these really prove that, our products really work. Okay, and just for example, we have our H-Lock TR90 Trim Shake. They've actually won the Monday Selection Gold Award. Yeah, so this Monday Selection is an international and independent quality institute. Yeah. Okay, and all right. And in a short while, I'd like to share with you a short video.
This publication has been trusted for years by medical professionals worldwide. The Physician's Desk Reference is an authoritative source about prescription drugs to help improve health. Pharmanex is honored to be featured in the Physician's Desk Reference. There are 7 Pharmanex products listed here, including the entire H-Lock TR90 weight management system.
Is a global, well-recognized publication referenced by many professionals in the medical field. It is an honor and a privilege for Pharmanex to be one of the nutritional supplement companies to have its products listed here, especially the H-Lock family of anti-aging products.
Pharmanex continues to innovate and develop nutritional supplements based on the 6S quality assurance process, helping you live younger, longer, and healthier lives. Get ready to discover your best self.
To our audience, okay? Sales leaders need not answer this, all right? It's only open to new friends. Right, may I know do you recall how many products, Pharmanex products are included in the Physician's Desk Reference? Anyone? Yes? 7? Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it shows that you have been, paying attention. Okay, jokes aside, this, one of our products, right, which is the TR90 weight management system. This is the only weight management system to be ever listed in the Physician's Desk Reference. So as you can see here, our products are safe. You can rest assured that, consume it, without feeling any doubts. All right, and not to mention, on top of being listed in the PDR, TR90 is the #1 weight management and well-being brand in Malaysia, as awarded by the Euromonitor International. All right, so let's give us a round of applause. All right, so we are very proud and honored, okay, because not only being awarded by international bodies, we have also been featured in local publications, okay, as well as magazines and newspapers. So these are some of that that's being featured. Okay, so nuskin's vision is very simple. It's to become the world's leading business opportunity platform. Am I right? Yeah. Everyone agrees on that. Okay, so to help our sales leaders, achieve their dreams and goals, Nuskin have created a roadmap to success to actually, guide, and reward our sales leaders whenever they reach the key milestones in their Nuskin journey. Everyone starts out, with the Gold Star Cap. Then they move on, to qualify for the Success Summit. Okay, going on to Jumpstart 20, Team Lead, and finally becoming a millionaire. Okay, so have you guessed, how many millionaires that we've actually created, throughout Nuskin, around the world? Anyone have a guess? No? All right then, I'll just show the numbers. Okay, we have actually 1,440 millionaires ever created. So these are the numbers. So yes. All right. So in Southeast Asia itself, we have actually created 100 millionaires already. Okay, so this was way back in 2016, so we have actually celebrated these very distinguished individuals, okay, in our Southeast Asia Regional Convention, yeah, and this was way back in July 2016, so I'm very sure the numbers would have increased by now already, so we'll just wait for the next numbers to be shown. Alright, so wrapping up, you and I have dreams, am I right? So I think the one question that you should ask yourself, after the whole event is over, is to ask, whether, what am I doing today, okay, and how that can actually, whether that's actually contributing to the dreams, that I have had. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for listening to the sharing. Thank you. So, for the new friends, I'd just like to have a little reminder. So, for those who have yet to register, please register to be in the running to win the new friend surprise gift, right? So, okay, moving on to the next segment. I believe everyone here is interested to know more about the age-lock science and technology. Our speaker today has been with nuskin for 22 years, since 1996, holding a Ph.D. in Immunology and Cell Biology. He is the Vice President of Global Research and Development for Pharmanex and oversees the research and development for all Pharmanex products. And in recent years, he is also the expert with the latest innovation, which is called the ECOSPHERE Water Purifier. Ladies and gentlemen, can I borrow your hands to welcome Dr. Mark Bartlett?
Thanks for the warm welcome. It's really fun to see a bunch of new people here. I can't believe this is your first meeting, because you probably didn't expect a scientist from the company to be talking. It's kind of strange, right? Usually I'm locked up in the lab. Why is a scientist talking directly to sort of consumers and business leaders? Well, that's kind of one of the cool things about this company, is that we have such an emphasis on science, and so I get to speak to you guys and share a little bit with you. So I hope you brought your science hats with you today. I hope you all have graduate degrees in whatever it is, so that you'll be able to understand the scientific jargon and lingo that will go on today from the stage. Yeah? Okay, we'll keep it really simple today. Not a lot of science, don't worry. We talked already, thanks Yen Mei for the really nice introduction to the company, right? So we've really been a leading anti-aging company. And over the years, a lot of really cool technology that has come from the company. Because we're not I don't know if you understand the expression, me too. So some companies, they find products that other people have done, and they say, well, we can do that too. Maybe we can do it cheaper, or do it in a different color, but that's not what we do. We actually try to lead the edge. And so that's why the company has a lot of scientists and a strong emphasis on science and some of these innovative products that Yen Mei has already introduced to you. And as Yen Mei already told you, in 2008, we really discovered ourselves, or rediscovered ourselves, with this brand called ageLOC. Now, what is ageLOC? Let me describe it to you a little bit. It's a little bit of an insight that we had. When we're focusing on wellness and anti-aging and beauty, there are a couple of ways of doing that. One is just to address the symptoms, or the outside of the issue, right? Like if you have something going on with your skin, maybe it's getting older, it's getting wrinkles or something, then cover it up. Put some kind of paste on it to cover it up, and it's kind of artificial, but it doesn't really solve the problem of aging, does it? Or if it's wellness, maybe as you age, you have less energy, so what's the solution? Well, maybe just drink more coffee. Or if you're young, Red Bull or something, right? And I think you can see immediately that's a very symptomatic approach, right? It doesn't change the way you're aging, either on the outside or the inside, it just kind of covers up the symptom. So the approach that we realized is most important is to address the causes, right? Not just treat the signs and symptoms, but go right inside to address the sources of aging. And in order to do that, that is not so simple, right? Because it's not just looking at the symptoms. If you're doing this, if you're addressing the sources of aging, then you need to know what's causing it. What's going on inside the cell? Whether it's the skin or the rest of the body, you need to have a much more advanced digger deep into the science, right? And for that, you need scientists. I think you'll agree, right? And so, let me just describe very briefly, normally I would do an hour talk on this age-long science. But I'm just going to describe very briefly that one of the approaches was to look at, what is the command and control center of every cell? It's actually the DNA, right? And how the DNA inside that nucleus of the cell is expressed will give us a lot of clues as to what happens as you age and how you might change it. And I don't actually mean like some kind of genetic engineering, but we've learned and we understand that those genes, while they don't change, while they're fixed for life, they express themselves in different ways. There are gene products, and the foods that we eat, the things that we put on our skin, the level of stress, all sorts of things can impact the way that this command and control center of the cell ages us, or either assists or else doesn't assist in helping us to stay young. So one approach here was then to look at the gene expression pattern of young versus old. So you can see on the left, that's a gene expression pattern. And then understanding that there are differences between old and young, then testing ingredients, natural ingredients, to see if we can actually change that gene expression, the gene expression of an older individual, back to that looks more like a younger individual, right? So here's our ingredient library. How many of those ingredients might actually impact gene expression in a positive way? We found the key to that. Therefore, we were able to identify ingredients both for skin and for the body that are helpful in keeping us young. I won't get any more complicated than that, except now. Here's an example of an experiment then. This is one where we looked at human energy, and we looked at a part of the cell that produces energy. And that part of the cell requires about 1,000 genes to be expressed. And we noticed that if you compare young and old, about 52 of those genes, 52 of the 1,000, change dramatically as you age. The gene expressions change, right? So think of it as, a gene product is like maybe your favorite recipe, right? And so maybe there are 52 recipes there. Anything from, noodles to curry. And just think as you age, then the whole recipe seems to change. You produce maybe more noodles and less curry, or vice versa. So we have 52 recipes that are changing dramatically as you age, as you see on the right there. So now, the next task is to do experiments where you feed individuals for like 3 months, different ingredients, right? And we're talking about older individuals, so your gene expression pattern is going to look like that on the right. Now let's feed different ingredients in our panel for 3 months and see which of those ingredients might shift that gene expression back to more youthful. And so I'll show you an example of 5 different ingredients that we tested for mitochondrial energy production gene expression. Which of those 5 ingredients was able to shift this pattern here? Whoops. Where's the laser? I guess you can't see it. Okay, well, ingredient number 4, right? Yes. Ingredient number 4 turned that old gene expression back into young again, right? Some of you may have heard of this wonderful kind of medicinal mushroom that comes out of China called cordyceps. That was the ingredient.
Ooh.
Which is fascinating because for centuries, this is an ingredient that has been valued for stamina and energy. And we just showed, using modern science, maybe how that works. And so this is an example of age-long. Pretty cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, in order to do this kind of science, we need evil geniuses So here's our group of scientists. I'm sorry, I'm going mad with the clicker here. So about 75 scientists in the company, about 30 PhDs. When I first joined nuskin in 1996, there were 3 PhDs and a few other scientists. So it has really expanded since then. We have a critical mass of really good scientists in different areas. Experts in skin, experts in cell biology and nutrition, and together we can work and continue to be on the frontier of science. And these scientists are very active. Okay, we love to publish the work that we're doing and patent some important discoveries. And so these are just some of the recent achievements that we have: awards, posters, patents, publications, etc. All right, and this always helps us then lead down the innovation pathway. And you'll notice from what you heard earlier from Yen Mei and also from this picture that it's both ingredients and products for the skin and for wellness, but also there are some devices there, right? And some of these devices are very interesting as well. You'll probably learn, if you're new, learn more about some of these wonderful devices. I'm going to talk about one tonight called ECOSPHERE.
Yeah.
And you can see that there's some weird Greek letter even after that. So we have products in the pipeline that we're working on. So I'm just going to tell you the story of one of these products, the ECOSPHERE water purification system tonight. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. Not too much science, but a little bit. Okay? I'm going to talk more a little bit about the history and, you know, how we developed this. Because it's always interesting. It's always a new story every time when we develop a product. So I hope we'll have fun with that. But I'm going to sprinkle it with some science, because we're going to talk about mathematics today. We're going to talk a little bit about the logarithmic scale. But that's about as complicated as it will get, okay? Normally I have a whiteboard and make it really complicated, but we'll keep it simple tonight. Okay. So, it was a few years ago that the Southeast Asia region, some of the sales leaders here and marketing leaders talked to me and they said, Mark, there is an issue, there's a gap, there's a need in Southeast Asia for a really good water filter. It's an issue because of the water quality in this part of the world, right? And so, you know, this graph here, or this slide shows that out of 178 different countries, where your country ranks in terms of water quality, right? And so where are we here in Kuala Lumpur or in Malaysia? Sort of 45th. So not the worst, but not the best either, right? So there's an issue there, there's a gap. And so, so the team asked me to look. Now, most of you here are long-time distributors, business partners with the company. So you may be interested to know this. We hadn't done a water filter before. And when I was asked to investigate this and to develop a water filtration system, the team that I asked was none other than the team that actually developed the biophotonic scanner for the company. Right? Some really good scientists in that little team. It's one of my favorite teams to work with. And so they got right on it. They started investigating everything that there was to know about water and about all of the different technologies that are used to filter and purify water. Right? And one of the first things that we had to investigate is, well, why isn't it that the water that comes out of your tap is not always clean? Why is that? Because, you know, in America, at least for the most part, when we turn the tap on, the water comes out clean and you can drink it. You don't have to boil it. Generally, you don't have to filter it, right? So we had to understand, well, what's going on in the rest of the world? And here are some of the things that we learned, right? That we have agricultural facilities. And we do know that pesticides and fertilizers are used and that those leach into the ground and they affect the quality of the water that's in the ground, right? We know that there are factories. It's just getting harder and harder to be in a part of the world today where we actually have perfectly clean air and perfectly clean water. right? We're hearing all the time about accidents or about factories that are being fined because it was discovered that they've been dumping their waste into the waterways, right? So there are, you know, chemicals and fuels and things like that that are leaking into the water as well, right? Sometimes heavy metals from mining operations, you name it. It's getting very hard to sort of find a part of the world where everything is clean, and the water generally reflects that environment, right? So our municipal water supply does its best to clean it up. We will take that water that has lots of issues, including, you know, organic material and sediments and sewage and all sorts of things, and take it into the plant and try to clean it up and ultimately chlorinate it, right? And then send it on its way to your house. So the question then is, how good is that water that has been chlorinated? So what does the chlorine do? It's this chemical in there called hypochlorite, right? Which basically oxidizes living things, and so it kills the bacteria and the viruses. So that's good. At least you're not going to get that kind of stomach virus or illness from E. coli, because the chlorine has done the job. I guess the question is now, is the chlorine that remains in the water okay to drink? Generally yes, but it does have some impact on your health. Maybe it's just minor, and it's certainly worth the cost. But when chlorine interacts with these biological molecules, it actually forms new molecules that maybe have a risk. Now, what is it that the chlorine is not able to clean? Well, if there are pesticides, or pharmaceuticals, or heavy metals, or some of these other chemicals, chlorine doesn't touch that, right? So there is a possibility that there is that in the water that you're drinking. The other thing is, how far is it from that water purification plant to your house? And what is the pipe that's carrying that water to your house? Is it an old pipe, or is it a nice shiny new pipe? Is it stainless steel? Probably not, right? It's probably something else, an old you know, iron pipe that may be leaking rust into it. And is iron perfectly pure? Probably not. There's probably other sort of metals in there as well. Maybe it's copper. Maybe there are some solders, some lead solders at points across the line. So the point is that even though it's cleaned with chlorine, what is coming out of your tap may not be perfect. And I think you already know that, because most of you here probably boil your water, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. And that was something that was really new to our team. So we thought, wow, we really need to get on this. Okay? So the solution then that you have here is, let's buy bottled water, right? But there are side effects to that, right? It's expensive, and environmentally unfriendly, and the water quality still cannot be certain. I watched Slumdog Millionaire. I saw them doing that, right? They put tap water in there and they glued the bottles back on the top. You know, the hotel that I'm staying at right now, the Westin, just down the road, they don't give you bottled water in the room anymore, or straws, right? Because they're trying to contribute to the environment. So there's actually a water filter in the room now. So that's kind of the direction I think that the world may be going, is realizing that there's an impact environmentally. So here we are, you're boiling your water, and you're wondering if your water is still good enough to drink. Well, it's not going to make you sick probably in the short term, but long term we sort of wonder a little bit. So boiling the water, does that clean everything out of it? Well, it will kill any bacteria and viruses if you boil it long enough, right? That's why you do it. So, great, but it may actually be concentrating some of the other bad things that are in the water, right? Because when you boil it, the level goes down, so now it's more concentrated, whatever it is that's left in there. So maybe that's not the solution either. So what is? Well, maybe we need to start thinking about water filtration. Do most of you have water filters in your house?
Yes.
Do you still boil the water after it's filtered?
Yes.
Wow. That kind of tells me that you don't really trust your water filter very much.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well, let's get back to the task at hand then. Our group, my little group, went out and looked at all of the different technologies that are being used. Went to trade shows, went to manufacturers, went to lectures from academic institutions, read publications, and really try to find out what are the technologies that are being used in water filtration, right? And we really, that's how we do it at nuskin, like I showed you with ageLOC. We want to go from the inside out, right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter about anything else if the science isn't supporting what we're doing, right? So we needed to look at this technology. And I must tell you that the first news that I got back was, not so good. My team came back after 2 years of work and they said, Mark, we have an issue. Nearly all of the technology that's out there is technology that they've been using for a long time. There's nothing new. So how, because actually we are used to at nuskin developing something that's entirely new. A biophotonic scanner that uses light to measure carotenoids in the skin. Nobody had done that before. Our galvanic spa, nobody had shrunk it to the size of something that fits in your hand before. Our Lumi spa, nobody had done this, the vibration on the skin. So we are used to delivering something that is totally unique. And if we can't make it unique, then it's just me too. And that's really, I told you, we don't do that at nuskin. So I thought, well, maybe we have a problem here. But I asked my team to persist. Look a little bit deeper. Let's figure out if there's something that we can do that's different, that offers an opportunity, a business opportunity, and a way to improve people's lives, because that's what we're doing, right? So they did. They went out and they looked a little deeper. And they did come across some things, I'm excited to say, that really we feel like we can make a difference. Okay, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here, right?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that we found is that there are lots of different technologies, right? I mentioned that we were looking at, we learned about carbon blocks, those little black things there. We learned about pleated filters and all sorts of other things that are being done to filter water. And we learned about how complex a lot of these things are. What I'm dealing with now is some of the user experience, right? We found, as we investigated not just the technology, but we went into people's houses and looked at the filters that they were using, that many of them were actually quite complex and quite frankly also quite ugly, right? And we found that this directly impacts the everyday user experience of the filter, right? We would, one of the fun parts of the job was using the corporate credit card to go online and order all sorts of water filters from around the world, right? And we would have boxes turning up at our door and we would open the boxes and quite often we would find things like this inside. And the first thing would be, well, we feel like we're pretty smart, but wow, how are we going to put this together? Many times the instructions were not very good, and we would assemble it and then find that there were leftover parts, and we go, oh dear, I hope this is not going to leak, And so we then hit on an insight, is that the user experience and the design of the average water filter for your house is not very good. Maybe there's something that we can do here, right? Here's another typical sort of example that you've got like lots of stages in filtration typically, and they're often separate, and that means if you're assembling them, every time you have to make a joint there's a possible leak that could happen. Hoping that you get it in the right order. This is literally a picture of a box that I took that we opened after ordering one, and this is kind of typical. Where you look in there and you go, wow, there's parts, there's wires, there's plumbing connections. Where do we even start with this? Often the instructions were not very good English, right? English was obviously the second language of whoever it was that wrote the instruction manual many times, right? Have you experienced that before? Yeah, it's not always just Chinese English either. Like, have you ever tried to assemble IKEA stuff? Yeah, I hate it when my wife brings IKEA home.
IKEA. IKEA. Oh,
there are
IKEA.
other things then. So now we were on a roll. We started talking to people about what they did and didn't want as a water filter in their home. And they told us also that many of these things were too big, too clunky, too ugly, right? Take up too much space on the countertop. We asked questions about, well, do you want a unit that a plumber has to come and install? or would you rather have one that's on the countertop that you do yourself? And the majority of people said we want to do it ourselves, but we are concerned that they're ugly, that we don't know how to assemble it, and that it's too big. So wow, maybe we can start changing the world of filtration. We have some hope here. You know, and here's an example. So not so good looking, but also the user experience. Many of the people that we talked to said, I don't even know how to change the filters on this. And I thought, wow, well, you just need to look at it, right? I mean, how hard can it be? And those were my famous last words, because about 4 years ago, my wife renovated our kitchen, and I found something like this lurking under our kitchen sink. I said, what's that? My wife said, that's the new water filter. It's reverse osmosis, it's really cool, and you know, that thing has been there for 4 years, and I don't know if those filters are any good or not, but I'm not game to touch them, and we don't know where to order a new one or who's going to do this. So I think we're filtering water, and I don't even know if it's working, right? And that's kind of typical of the user experience, right? It needs to be more simple. You need to know what's going on. There needs to be a light or something that tells you that the filter is ready to change, right? And then instead of having 3 filters, why not just 1? So maybe there's something we could do. Here's another question that came up a lot. We heard about this system called reverse osmosis, right? And so should we be doing that, or should we be doing a different system? And again, reverse osmosis typically takes someone to install it. And there are some things that we learned about reverse osmosis. And one is that reverse osmosis uses water to clean the water, which means that for every liter that you drink, 4 liters is going down the sink and being wasted.
Yes.
So here's an example of a very enterprising individual that thought, well, let's not waste the water, let's have it drip directly into our washing machine. Anyway, we decided that we weren't going that route either. Here's another thing that comes up. I'm just going to take a little diversion here for a minute, because we were about 2 years into this project, and our friends from Southeast Asia called us and they said, hey, how's the project going? Oh, and by the way, you know, we've been reading up on this too, and everyone we talk to says that you need to go alkaline water. So make sure when you design this system that you give us alkaline water as well, right? And I said, alkaline water? Okay, I've heard of this, but this doesn't sound very scientific to me. So you look on the internet. I started looking it up on Google. You can find anything you want on the internet, right? And it's all true. So I found lots of reports of how alkaline water is being sold by very enterprising companies, right? Direct selling companies, you name it, and they're saying this water is the best. And if you look at the health benefits of alkaline water, and most of the claims were around cancer, right? The cancer cells grow much better in an acid environment, and so you need to have alkaline water. And immediately my background in biochemistry just made me slap my forehead and go, what am I missing? This makes no sense. So here's where we're going to have a little virtual whiteboard discussion, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions. How do you measure alkaline or acid? What's the unit of measurement? pH, right? And so if it's not acid or alkali, what is the pH? 7. I'm really impressed with the education level of the Asians. I don't know if I always get the straight answer in America. All right, this is great. 7 is neutral. So if it's acid, it's going to be a low number, right? And if it's basic, it's going to be a high number. Right. So, what are we measuring in the pH scale? Do you know? This is a harder question. What do we measure? We're measuring hydrogen ions. So think of water. Water is H2O, right? Which means 2 H's and 1 oxygen, right? So 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. Now if you pull one of the hydrogens off, right, then that's a proton. That's a hydrogen molecule. It's going to be H+, right? That's an acid. That is acid. So when you measure pH, you're really measuring the number of those little protons, right? Okay? You with me so far? Yeah. But pH is actually a logarithmic scale. It's the negative log of that hydrogen ion concentration. Okay, now maybe I lost you. But I want to get you back again. So, a logarithmic scale. I was in Manila yesterday, and I said, how many of you in the audience have experienced a 4, an earthquake that's a 4 on the Richter scale? And everyone said, oh yeah, all the time. How many of you have experienced an earthquake that's a 4 on the Richter scale? One person here. Okay, you felt it, right? Kind of wobbled your legs a little bit?
Oh,
right.
yeah.
My question to you is, if the earthquake is a 5 on the Richter scale, is my time up already? Oh, good. Whew. If it's a 5 on the Richter scale, how much more powerful is it than a 4? Sorry? It's 10 times more powerful, right? So you've only gone up one number, but it's 10 times more powerful. If it's a 6 on the Richter scale, how much more powerful is it than a 4? 100 times more powerful. Now you got it. That's what a logarithmic scale is, right? And so you can see quickly that a 7 is very, very powerful. Right? Now we're talking like 10,000 times more powerful than a 4. Right, so pH is the same. When you're measuring hydrogen ions, it's a pH logarithmic scale. So, my question to you is, what's the pH of alkali water? Maybe you don't know, but I'm guessing it's around 8, right? It's alkali, but you don't want to be too alkali or you'll burn your throat, right? So it's going to be around 8, right? That means that, if you split the water off, it's going to have just kind of, you're in the region of maybe 1 OH group, right? Because it's the opposite of acid, so it's going to be OH, and the acid's going to be the H, right? Now, what is the pH in your stomach, the stomach acid? It's actually somewhere between 1 and 2, right? Now, we've gone from 7, logarithmic scale, we're counting the hydrogen ions. Let's go, say we go to 6. Let's say that's 10 hydrogen ions. Well, let's say it's 1. 6 is 1. Then 5 is 10. And 4 is? If you go to 1, it's 1,000,000. Alright, so you're going to drink your alkaline water, and it's got like 1 OH group in it, because it's pH 8. And it's going to go into your stomach that has how many hydrogen ions? 1,000,000, because it's pH 1, or at the very least, 100,000. Is it going to make any difference at all to the pH in your stomach? Not at all. So this is why I'm slapping my forehead, saying, why do we want alkaline water? Okay, let me introduce you to fact number 2. When I was in college, I learned about, I did a zoology course, and I learned about something called homeostasis. Have you heard that word before? Some of you have, right? It's how the body keeps itself the same all the time. So when you're hot, your body wants to stay at 37 degrees, so you're outside. How does your body get cool? You sweat, you do all sorts of things to try to keep cool, right? It's very inconvenient, right? And in Utah, where we're cold, you never get cold here, right? Well, when it starts snowing in Utah and you're outside with a t-shirt on, you start to shiver, right? You shiver because your body's trying to stay at 37 degrees. The same with pH. pH is tightly controlled. So even if the alkaline water did change the pH in your stomach, by the time any of that got to your blood, it would be completely normalized again. So the idea that alkaline water is going to make a difference is out. Do you believe me? Okay.
Yes.
We'll just leave it at that. So, the next thing that we thought we might have an impact on in this area that is new and exciting is design. You saw a lot of ugly water filters. Maybe there are some pretty ones out there, but most of them seem to be quite ugly. I don't know what yours looks like, but maybe we should work on design. And this is what we designed here, right? This is the outside part. This beautiful, sleek, and slender design. So here are the things that we worked on. Now we thought we can really offer something in the water purification area by design, by user experience, and by technology. We can do all three, right? I'll talk about the technology part as well. Right? So here's part about the design. We want it to look beautiful in your kitchen. We want it to be something that you're proud of, right? And that looks really nice. I can see that in my kitchen, and I can see my wife really enjoying the look of that. Right? Doesn't take up very much space on the countertop. And there are some things that you don't want to have to assemble as part of the user experience, right? We don't want to open that box and see parts that are not attached, and we don't know where to attach them. So let's make sure that they're already attached, then there's no doubt, right? So we have this 3-in-1 cable, not 3 or 4 cables, but one, right, that is attached to the unit. We have, and this is really one of the most irritating parts for me, is have you ever gone into someone's kitchen and they've got a water purifier hooked up, and you say, I have no idea what knob to turn, something could explode, so you have to call the owner of the kitchen. Well, which knob do I turn? Which is filtered and which is not, right? Wouldn't it be so nice if you had a diverter like this, where you just touch it? You don't have to turn anything that's stiff or loose or leaking, right? You just touch this diverter because it's touch-sensitive electronic. It's like an iPhone touch when you want to filter, right? Touch of the finger. So that's part of the user experience and the beauty that we thought we could add to this space, right? So we want the user experience to be good. That means easy installation, easy cartridge replacement, no wastewater, right? Like an RO system, very easy to use, right? We want it to be able to adapt really easily, so we provide all of the adapters that you need to screw onto your faucet so that it just clicks on into place. Right? And the cartridge, when it's time to replace it, yay! We have a light that tells you when the cartridge is ready to replace, and when it's time to replace, it's just a quarter turn, right? 1/4 turn to get it out, and then another quarter turn to get the new one in. It could not be simpler. Even I could do that, right? No plumbing, no tools, no exposed filters, no disassembly required. Nice and easy. It's about time, right? And here's that beautiful diverter that we talked about. I think anyone could walk into your kitchen and it would be so easy for them. So let's talk about now the technology. I think we've really added something to the design and to the user experience. But what about the technology? Is that good? Is that going to work? Right? So we call it the I4 Ultra Purification Technology, and it starts with this 3-in-1 cartridge, right? Instead of 3 separate ones that you have to replace, it's one, and it's all in one, right? The first part is the outside. This is the first thing that the water meets, and it's the polypropylene pleated pre-filter, PPP. The second section is the carbon block. The third phase is the polyethersulfane membrane. You can just call it the PES membrane. And finally, the ultraviolet light. And I think I've got like 5 minutes left, but I'm going to ask for 5 minutes more. Okay, so this first filter is really important because, you know, there's going to be a little bit of sediment sometimes, some things that you need to trap first, some of the bigger particles, so that it doesn't sort of clog up the rest of the filter. This is accordion shaped to give it a really big surface area. It runs the entire length of, or the height of the unit, right? So there's plenty of space there to capture everything for a good long life of the filter, right? The second stage is the workhorse, right? And this is one of the things that we discovered is, let's use all of the technology that already exists, but just let's use the best of every technology that's available in this unit. And the carbon block, compressed carbon block, is the best. So carbon is an amazing thing, right? Most of this is made from coconut husks. Some of it probably comes from this part of the world. You turn that into charcoal, and it actually filters things pretty amazingly well. But you can turn it into a super filter by using steam and blasting it through the charcoal that creates all these minute channels and increases the surface area to an amazing degree. Something like a tablespoon has a surface area of a tennis court. So you can really experience some wonderful filtration. Here's an example. You have these little channels that run through the activated carbon that trap all of these organic chemicals. It traps lead, it traps the smelly things, it traps the chlorine. So all of these things that you want to filter out, this is where the workhorse is, right? And you can really trust it. It really works very well. There are different choices. You can get a carbon block or you can get granulated carbon, right? Now the granulated carbon works quite well, but the water has to sort of, trickle down through that granulated carbon, and sometimes it finds a channel. So there are little bits of the water that maybe necessarily aren't being filtered as well as the rest. So a block is a much better situation. And long story short, there are different ways of building the block. You can do extrusion or you can do compression. And the compressed carbon block is the best technology available. Right? And that's the one that we use in our filter. Right? It looks like this. It's a cylinder of compressed carbon, and water has to go all the way through into the center in order for it to be filtered. So this is great. Good technology. This is a unique one, right? So I talked earlier about reverse osmosis, and there are some wonderful technologies in reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
And my team thought, you know what? We could apply some of that technology, normally reserved for reverse osmosis filters, into our countertop version. And that's what this is. This third stage is the PES membrane.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a close-up of what it looks like. It kind of looks like your ramen noodles, only really well organized. Lots and lots of these tiny fibers, right? And the water has to push its way outside of those fibers into those tubes, right? Let me give you a better close-up. So if you look at one of those tubes, you see at the top there, it's one of those tubes, right? Now the water has to find its way from outside the tube inside. And if you look at close-up of the side of the tube, it's like this one here. So this is ultrafiltration. You've got pores that are just somewhere between 10 and 100 nanometers. So a nanometer is 1,000th of a micrometer, and a micrometer is 1,000th of a millimeter. So it's kind of hard to imagine how small that is, but it's going to get anything that might be left behind. And that's what we use as the third phase of this filter. And then finally, of course, UV light, which is really good at, if anything gets through, which is highly unlikely, the UV is able to kill viruses and bacteria. Right? So, a summary then. You see the flashing blue there? That's the outside, that's the pleated filter, the first pre-filter. The second part here, that flash there, is the compressed carbon block, right? The workhorse of the filter. And then that third section there, the third is ultrafiltration. This is the PES membrane. And finally, the fourth phase is the UV light. Right? And it's really nice to be able to save. So if you are using one of these units, typically the water capacity is about 5,200 liters. That's equivalent, each one of those little sort of representations over there is 100 bottles. So we're talking 10,400 500 ml bottles that you're saving by using each time you have one of these filters. A little bit about the materials. I said we sourced the best technologies. We also sourced the best materials that we could find, and that meant searching the world for the right materials. So the 3-in-1 cable that we talked about is sourced from Germany. The diverter comes from China. I haven't seen anything like this anywhere else. It's really nice. The cold cathode lamp comes from Japan, and the 3-in-1 cartridge that we got is coming from Korea. They seem to make a lot of water filters in Korea, and some of them are quite good. So that's where we source that technology from. So now the question is, does it work? We're going to talk about logs again. Is that okay? But before we talk about logs, I want to show you a video. I have an evil twin brother who works in the lab, and he's going to share a little bit about this with you. The ECOSPHERE water purifier is scientifically designed to help keep your water free of harmful contaminants and bacteria. But what does clean really mean? Let's do a quick test to demonstrate the device's incredible purification power. This is water that we've injected with E. coli. Now, E. coli is a potentially harmful bacteria that's commonly found in your water. It's tasteless, odorless, and invisible to the naked eye. Yet some strains of E. coli can cause stomach pain, vomiting, and even diarrhea. In fact, some studies estimate that E. coli contributes to between 5 and 10 million deaths a year. To measure just how much bacteria there is, we take controlled samples. We incubate them for 18 hours to allow cultures to grow, and then look at the samples under a UV light, like this. That blue glow, that indicates the presence of E. coli. Now let's look at incubated samples of that same water filtered by the ECOSPHERE water purifier. Let's see how the water looks now. Totally clean, safe, and ready to drink. In the time it takes to turn on your faucet, the ECOSPHERE water purifier has eliminated virtually all bacteria in the injected water. The I4 ultra purification technology quickly purifies the water of toxins, chemicals, impurities, and yes, bacteria. The difference is clear. Tap into the power of the ECOSPHERE water purifier and drink healthy with clean, safe water. Great. So the guy that wears a black suit on stage and looks like a salesman, not all that credible necessarily, but if you grow a beard and wear a white lab coat, now he's believable, right? Okay, so just one more point then. Let's go to the log thing that we talked about earlier, right? When we talk about reduction of bacteria or viruses or particles in water, we talk again about logarithmic scales. And the gold standard is 6 logs, right? So that means 6 numbers that are each a logarithm. So, for example, if you start with 1 million bacteria in that glass of water, if you reduce it by 1 log, then you're reducing it 90%. How many are going to be left? Well, if you look there, 100,000 bacteria will still be in your glass if you reduce it by 90%. So how low do you want to go with your water, right? If we go 2 logs, that's 99% of the bacteria removed, right? If 99% are removed from 1 million, that means you've got how much left? 10,000. Are you going to drink that water with 10,000? Maybe that's where you are with your current filter. It's filtered, but I'm still not sure. There might be 10,000 bacteria in there, so I'm going to boil it, right? We want a water filter that you don't need to boil the water after it's filtered. And the best way to do that is to have one that gets you down to 6 logs. That means 1 million is going to go down to somewhere between 0 and 1 with this filter. And that's that experiment that my evil twin brother just shared with you, showed you that it does get down 6 logs. And just to make sure, we sent our water filter out, several of them, to a company that does this all the time, the same kind of test, and they were able to verify for us that yes, it does remove 6 logs, okay? So this is a filter that you can drink the water directly out of your faucet once you hit that little diverter button, right? We are talking about a filter that retains the dissolved solids, which would be, you know, what I'm talking, the salts I mean, which would be, you know, calcium, magnesium, things that make the water taste good and are good for you. They stay in the water. But everything else, the bacteria, the viruses, the cysts, they all are removed, right? And then even this one at the bottom here, VOC, do you know what that is? That stands for volatile organic compounds, and these are the things that make the water taste bad and smell bad, right? And this is something that I mentioned, carbon is very good at removing all of these volatile organic compounds. So I think that's the last slide. Thank you so much. We were able to offer something amazing in the sphere, and we hope that you'll be able to try this out and enjoy it for yourself.